we need to talk about Gabe's screen time. He's now been
Hello
playing.
everybody, I am streaming this match. It's Bomber678. Rat has correctly homed in on who I am. This is the league match between Neigutten and Nemesis Kundan. So, as you can see, it's Onimaru versus Grave, and as soon as my co-host Redless gets back, he'll be able to talk to us a little bit more about this matchup, considering I'm not really a Grave or an Onimaru player. I mean, I want to become a Grave player, but it's a work in progress. Neigutten pulling off a simple king ace combo. No pump on that king, which is certainly fair enough.
That seems pretty reasonable also.
Aha! And my co-host has just arrived. Hello Redless, we're on stream right now.
All of a sudden?
Yes.
So what have I missed?
Well, Nemesis and Neigutten are playing their tournament match, so you'd better get in here and stream this with me.
Alright.
Talk to me about this matchup. I don't know anything about it.
Well, it may be. I'm not sure which is favor. I would think Onamaru, because he is able to guard crush through the blocks, which really prevents Graves Innate from being as useful as it could be. And we also see, of note, Final Authority really sort of wrecks Graves' late game, except for dodge into TPOS, which is really Graves' greatest tool in this matchup, and in a lot of matchups, but a lot of Onamaru's stuff, specifically everything but his throws, actually beat TPOS. So he can do things, and if he does throw, it's going to take TPOS or normal to deal with it, which is really not in a position Grave wants to be, because those are both attacks, and Onamaru does have strong attack punish in Final Authority and in his dodges. So
this is true, but aren't dodges still very strong for Grave?
well, yes.
Like, would you say that Grave doesn't have a lot of good dodge follow-ups compared to Onimaru?
Well, I would, but the big thing for Grave is that he has TPOS. That's his really most dangerous dodge.
Fair enough. Well, Grave has done 50 damage so far without a single TPOS in sight, so...
Looks like he's making some pretty good reads in that case.
Undoubtedly. That's actually a pretty good hand for Onimaru. He's certainly building up some good cards there.
He doesn't have anything that would really back up Final Authority, though, I noticed. Like,
yeah, and he doesn't have
doesn't
any good throws or guard crushes.
Yeah.
He has tried to attach Clockwork Soldiers twice, and the first one was dodged and the second one was outsped.
So looks like Nemesis Cannon's going for the aces to finish it off with style.
Which is fair enough. He does seem to be in a very advantaged position. But if Onimaru manages to attach an ace or hit a guard crush, it could change.
Yeah. Neigutten is only, 50 life points behind, and that's not really a big issue. If Grave doesn't land TPOS, it's very possible that just generally good options from Neigutten could get him a win. Onamaru does a lot of damage, and it's pretty easy for him to sustain the damage, so it's possible that Grave could have to deal with repeated guard crushes, good dodges, even some throws if he lets Onamaru get a hand.
Well, Onimaru does have the card advantage here of 3 cards, which is actually pretty good, I think, in this matchup.
I agree, it's pretty major.
Especially since he already burned some cards for some aces, so that means he probably is holding quite a strong hand. Unfortunately, he's just run an ace into a block. That is bad on a couple of levels, because powering up for aces isn't always the best move for Onimaru, and so he really wants to put them to use. But and also, Grave gets to use knowing the opponent, so Onimaru is not in a fantastic situation. Of course, if he had an 8 attack, he could assuredly win the combat, but I'm sure Grave is aware of this fact.
The weird thing about what we just saw, I would see a dodge coming from Grave this turn, by the way, just because it's so safe. And the weird thing is, single ace is not that good at this point in the game for Onimaru, just because, yeah, dodge. There's some sketchy stuff going on with Grave, specifically. He's either going to be playing TPOS naked or not playing TPOS naked, and if he doesn't play TPOS naked, likely he's going to lose to like a guard crush. But if he does play TPOS naked, I mean, ace and guard crush are both screwed. So what I'm really saying here is that I don't think ace really was high enough payoff to justify just guard crushing that turn.
Fair enough.
Especially since Nemesis Candid didn't know that neigutten had a guard crush.
Well, he might have drawn the 10 the next turn. I don't know.
That's possible. Could have gone that way.
So he's now holding 2 final authorities. Do you think that will help?
I think probably it will. He didn't really have the ability to block mix-ups in this case, nor do you have the ability to deal with if Nemesis Cannon connects a mix-up, it's going straight to TPOS. Or if he connects a dodge. So 6 was a pretty fair play, but I mean Nemesis Cannon could have picked the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 game.
Not like this. Not like this. Says neigutten. He really likes his 6 blocks.
That's fair enough. 6 is one of Onimaru's few really useless cards.
Sorry, when I said that Onimaru powered up before, I was wrong. That was actually Grave powering up. Onimaru didn't power up at all. He's just been drawing aces. I'm just wrong. He's just drawn 3 aces. Sorry, stream folks. I'm wrong.
Alrighty.
I need dual letters.
Oh. So neigutten going for the dodge. That's a pretty fair play, I think.
Yeah, certainly. And he's hit that jack, but it's not super useful for him. Like, he really wants to be connecting with more damage at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a wise man once said, Onimaru's real source of burst damage is from his aces. So he does want to get some aces in if he's trying to burst Grave down.
But 3 aces in the discard means that anything he tries to put in further than 1 ace is going to be telegraphed.
Yeah. Which is fair enough. I mean, if I'm neigutten, I really have to sort of play it aggressively here. Yeah, with throws and things. I find it odd that Nemesis is going for Dragon Punch, knowing that neigutten had the dominant attacks and strong dodges, and it was likely he was going to throw or guard crush. But I guess it worked out. I mean, it didn't seem a super obvious read to me. If he's going to burn his final authority trying to throw Grave, I mean, why not just let him? There's like 1 less final authority you have to worry about. Because if he chooses not to final, okay, yeah, that was stupid of Nemesis Cannon.
Yeah, I mean, it does beat a lot of the things that neigutten wants to do, but I probably wouldn't have personally recommended that. Pumping his 10 with a jack is an interesting point there. So, I guess that means that he thinks his kings are too valuable for that.
He does have a lot of burst.
That is true.
Yeah.
But also,
I did find
he's not holding any useless low cards.
Almost 0% of the time is when Grave really wants to play TPOS naked, just because this late in the game, Onamaru is playing one thing that loses to naked TPOS, and that's throw, and he's not going to be throwing much, since it's just so exploitable, since naked TPOS wrecks it so hard.
That's very true. He has attached to Clockwork Soldiers. If a comeback comes at this point, it will definitely hinge on Clockwork Soldiers. I'm putting my money on that. If I had money, and if I was a betting man, but oh dear.
Oh,
But if the Shoryukens keep up, there might not be a comeback at all.
oh well, there could be. I mean, if he kings through a Shoryuken with Final Authority, and he can just smash cannon at a ton. Like, he's doing 32 damage that very combat. That's over half of Grave's HP. Assuming he pumps the king, gets the ace, etc. Or maybe
So
he's doing
is
even
that
more.
2 kings and an ace?
If he goes king, king, ace with Clockwork Soldiers, he's still doing a significant amount of damage. So it's not all lost for me.
Okay, but
He
he
just
has
has to
to
win, like,
make a solid connection.
3 or 4 solid combats to win.
Which
So
is
that's
a lot
pretty
more
low
than
percent.
Grave needs to win.
Grave needs exactly 1, and that's not it.
That is not it. That's a very
No.
confident 9 throw. I would rather be
Yeah.
keeping my final authorities at this point in the game.
Well, for all we know, he's got a lot of Final Authorities. That wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Well,
But he's not pumping. It's really bizarre.
He's already thrown with 1 final authority, and now he's thrown with a second one. And we know that he only had 2 in his hand the last time Grave looked at it. So I would consider he probably has at most 1 more in his hand. Maybe he's only gambling on his kings. I don't know. Ooh.
So that was, I think, the correct play from both of them. Nemesis Cannon really wanted to dodge because Onamaru potentially has king, 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 ace lethal off of an option. He can do 50 damage in 1 turn, of note, with his setup. And maybe he even could have.
Sorry.
Yeah. Continue.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wonder if we're going to see a counter pick, but then my question was answered. As there was no counter pick.
Is there really a counter pick to Grave? Argagard, maybe, would be a Grave counter pick?
If I were to counter pick Grave, I would probably play Trock or Manelka. Or Zane, I think. Zane is also probably a pretty solid Grave counter pick. Ooh, Nathan's here.
That's jealous.
Right, yeah, so... player drop, that's unfortunate. Neigutten appears to have, dropped. Well, why don't we take a moment to talk about this interesting second turn 5, which isn't actually that interesting, it's just a standard Onimaru second turn play. But the dodge coming out of Nemesis Cannon on second turn, what do you think he's holding in his hand that he really wants to dodge into at this point?
I think dodge is just such a safe play against most of Onamaru's early game range that he probably, if he hasn't got a solid range, he's fine, or a solid read on what Neigutten wants to do, he's just fine dodging. And I mean, that's not the best payoff or anything, but really it's not very exploitable. Also, if there's one thing that makes Onamaru players rage a ton, it's confident early game dodging. So it's like they're saying they don't even care
from experience?
That's speaking very from experience.
Fair enough.
I'm easily pissed off by cocky early game dodges.
An
I'm
interesting
guessing that's my.
failed reply there from Nemesis Candon. Um,
Hmm. New subreddit. So I would expect probably.
guest Kazpoit.
Yeah.
I wonder who that is. I wonder if it's someone we know or if it's someone we don't know. Hey,
I think
guest
it's Strat.
Kazpoit.
I think
Yo,
it's Strat. I'm gonna make an executive decision. Pretty sure it's Strat.
you reckon it's try that? Hey, guest Kazpoit, if you're watching this stream, wait a second for him to load the stream.
Okay. Guess.
Guest
Cat.
Kazpoit.
Poet. Ah.
Maybe it's poil, like French, poil, or poil.
Just
I
as
don't know.
well.
Anyway, if you're watching this stream, guest Kazpoit, and you don't have an account on this website, definitely make an account.
It was Strat. Don't worry. It was totally Strat.
Oh, wow, I'm totally disappointed. I thought I was just gonna bring some new blood in. Wouldn't that make me famous? It wouldn't, but
I agree. That'd be like here. You can even send him. How do you do it? You can make new players get you gold, right?
oh, the reference thing. Yeah, all right. I don't. I think I've done that like once, but
Do that.
I've never got any gold from it.
Huh? Yeah. Well, I mean, we do have I mean, this
Ah,
is I think probably Onamaru favored. He Onamaru's later range is really aggressive towards what Grave can play as a later range. Really, dodges are the only thing Onamaru has to worry about, and if he blocks hardly enough, he can deal with dodges pretty decisively. He kind of wants to draw jokers a lot, like everyday draw jokers, you know? Like, that's really important for Onamaru, so it's a bit variancy that way. Since, I mean, otherwise Onamaru's attacks backed up by final authority aren't safe on dodge if Grave has teapots.
yeah, that's very true. This Jack, do you think it's a very strong? I think personally that this is a very strong combat option for Grave. Do you agree with that in the early game?
I would say,
Because
yeah, I would say it
it
is.
beats all his normals and basically beats his blocks. Like the only thing that Onimaru is
Yeah,
going to do early game against that is dodge it, which is a perfectly legitimate play, but it means that Onimaru doesn't get to build his hand or undercut it with a queen or an ace, really.
and really, you do want to undercut it with a queen and an ace. If you're Onamaru early game, players don't know this, but you really want to be poking a lot early game.
So he's just
As
dodged into a
Onamaru.
10 attack. So I think that's a pretty good
Yeah,
play.
I think that's fairly standard. Dodging into 10 attack doesn't get you normal draw, so that's a bit. I mean, obviously, there's other ways you could use the 10 attack. So I think it's odd to pump with an ace. If I had an ace in that position, I'd probably just play it.
Well, I don't know if you noticed it.
That's
There was a fairly big delay there before he chose to pump. So whatever he's holding in his hand, he must be valuing it pretty highly because he was not sure about what he was going to pump with. So maybe he's holding
yeah,
like 4 final authorities and a bunch of face cards. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I would hope we're going to see some base cards flying around here if that's the case. In general, though, I would say Onamaru's early game, just because attacking is so incentivized, because he doesn't have that thing all the grapplers have, defense mastery, and because his guard crushes are beating blocks up pretty hard, I would say that probably pokes are a really important part of early Onamaru.
Hmm.
That's all I wanted to say about that. I find these dodges pretty odd, but I mean Onamaru generally does have pretty strong dodges. Just seems odd that he would dodge as opposed to just playing the 5 naked or something. I don't know.
Well, it wouldn't beat the Jack, and I think he was fearing another one. I don't know how, but I think he read it personally, or maybe he was reading a Shoryuken. Like, I think what's important was I think he was reading a face card, which is perfectly legitimate because Graves' face cards are all very strong versus Onimaru's early game players. Simply because
Yeah,
it's like I'm gonna beat out all your normals, and you're probably not going to be playing face cards at this point in the game.
yep. Yeah, I guess I can agree with what you just said. So Nemesis Cannon going for the 10 block.
Yeah, which is, I think, perfectly fine. A 9 block's probably better, but 10 block is still just fine. So he has another jack. So he's definitely got a very good draw this game, because drawing 3 jacks within the first like 5-6 turns
Yeah,
is quite good for Grave. It means you can really like start to lock down your opponent. I mean,
I
if you play them smartly, of course.
I mean, it works less well on Amaru. And personally, I've just seen a jack get shown. 10 block is coming out again almost 100% of the time here. He doesn't want to get undercutted. He doesn't want to get dodged. So if I'm on Amaru and I have a 10 attack, I'm playing a 10 attack right about now.
All right. I think that. Oh yeah, that's right. I was just going to say that the jack's a very good early game option, and it can also be very easily converted into damage off any hit.
That's very true, actually.
Oh
So yeah, it
wow,
looks like the attack would have
7 throw.
won. Neigutten probably had the same line of reasoning, but he opted to go for the 7 throw instead.
He took it in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what Nemesis Cannon was thinking, but it hasn't quite worked out for him at that point.
He did read another dodge, I think. He read a dodge or a block. I mean, they're both pretty safe versus the range that Neigutten would probably expect Nemesis Cannon to be.
He should have just played the jack. Would have got his queen. Ooh, a nice throw there from Nemesis. He's gonna try and get himself back into this, because he certainly has a bit of a life. Oh, pardon me. A bit of a life deficit at the moment. And the knockdown's quite good from here, and he might just play the jack. Maybe.
He's probably predicting like an uppercut, so he's probably going to, I would say, queen here or dodge. Yeah, he queens. That's pretty fair.
Very understandable. I would have expected that too, really.
Yeah. Obviously, Neigutten.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe Negutten's like, I mean, I've got 10 cards, it's like, or 9 cards or however many he has, like, I don't mind if I get jacked, really. Because it's not going to worry him if he gets jacked at 9 cards too much. He doesn't need too many extra cards.
Yeah, in this matchup, jacketing block is not really off.
Pardon me. It's 5:25 in the morning. I'm definitely a very normal kind of guy. Oh, there's actually chat going on, so I'm a bit excited.
There are jokers there. That's jolly. I really like jokers. It seems like a strong thing to have happen. I'm a fan of jokers in general in this matchup.
It seems like he will really need them.
Yeah, I mean, jokers are generally Onmar is a very resistant character, so you want to save your jokers to prevent like marginal dodge follow-ups. Not a lot of damage that they're going to be doing, but that is how you're probably going to use them. Obviously, they're doing more in this. So for some reason, he plays the 6, I believe. It's a bit bizarre. Maybe he powered up. I wasn't paying attention. I was checking the stream page.
Sorry, what about power up? There was no power up.
Okay, yeah, he just played the 6 then. That's reasonably weird. They're both on pretty large hands. I wouldn't be surprised if Camden has just TPOS here. And he's smug enough of, well, obviously not if he's blocking, but he's smug enough of a player, he would just play it outright. So having decent attack pressure is definitely something.
Versus a 10 cards in hand on Imo, I wouldn't. It's dangerous.
I agree, but Gnosis Cannon did once in the past, so.
I just got a bit of echo.
So he does have a 3, and that's a mix-up in and of itself, which makes me wonder whether or not he's going to go for the throw, or he's just going to do the obvious play and dodge. Yeah, he does do the obvious play.
I was getting echo just a moment ago. It seems to have stopped. That's good. yeah, going with dodge there was certainly pretty fine. I just want to take a moment to say how really well designed knowing the opponent is. Like, it just makes that perfect Yomi blend where when you do it, it's like you gain an advantage off blocking, so the opponent is never at a disadvantage from it. It's just that they are not at an advantage, and then Grave gets to set the pace of the next fight. I really like that. Shout out
I
to
agree.
Serlin for being a genius.
Yeah, I agree. But it's really well designed. Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh. Ace
Ooh.
attack. Okay. He's done that. He's hit that right in the face, and there's definitely going to be a pump here. Pump with a king
That
is
was
fine.
a ballsy play, you know?
It was very much so, but I guess he wasn't expecting Grave to play T-Boss or try to dodge, so he was right.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was,
but
yeah.
but I think Grave will now. No, I'm wrong. He's just going in for more throws. This is Grappler Grave, never before seen.
Yeah, I agree. Grave Grappler is strong.
I don't know what's going on, but I like it. It was single ace. So either he's holding 4 aces, or he's just not going for T-Pot, or he's just powering up, I guess. That's fine too. That'll
Oh,
do. Okay, so he probably has T-Boss now. He
yeah,
definitely,
he definitely has it now.
definitely has it now.
So I think neiguten's pretty favored to win this. He has his attacks beat TPOS. His throws beat all of Graves' range besides TPOS and normals and random attacks that probably won't be playing. So he really just has a general advantage here, and he has both jokers, we know. So yeah.
Yeah, that's probably just gonna be a Nigutten victory in a couple combats. Like, when you just play your T-Boss and you whiff that T-Boss, it's like, it's pretty bad. Yeah,
So
I mean,
he's
so he's put Clockwork
clock
Soldiers on.
information is pretty bizarre for dodge follow up here.
I don't think it is
I
at
mean,
all, because what he's saying, what Nigutten is saying by putting that on, is he's saying, if I hit you, you lose. That's what he's saying right now. And
well, I mean, you get that same,
Nemesis has to respect that.
he's also saying if I get blocked, then if I hit you after getting blocked, I don't lose. So I mean, it seems to me like it would have been better for him to just 6 pump 6 there. Since
I don't know. That would,
is that way you're getting to 16 damage
I suppose that does put him on
immediately,
8 life. Maybe
and that
you're
is
right.
yeah, or would have put him on 9 life, and that is really decisive to have him down into that range, just where you want him, just automatically. And then he can opt not only for lethal off of attacks and dodges, but he can also opt for lethal off of throw. And that would really put him in a really nice position if he had that. It'd really be a coup to have lower HP on Grave rather than having a soldier attached. So I do think that was a misplay on Niguten's part.
You know, you could very well be right now. That yeah, I actually think I do agree with you. But he has just hit up a dodge, so he's pretty much just gonna play a. Okay, I don't know.
Another mistake.
So I don't know what he's doing right here. He could just finish the game just by playing the queen. The queen will just.
It's queen lethal.
I don't.
It just ran in the game.
I'm not actually.
He didn't play.
I don't. I'm actually
lethal.
I'm so unsure of what's actually going on here. I don't know why he didn't just fit. Like, is he taunting? I don't. Does he do that?
Yeah, I'm also. And now he doesn't have his confident throws in hand. He's really in a bad position relative to how good a position he could be in. Like he really would.
The game. I honestly, I'm not sure what just happened. Like, I don't know. I don't know what he was. Did he forget? Like,
Did he? I don't know. Anyway, he had lethal. It was guaranteed lethal. He didn't play it. That was a bit of completely a misplay in every way.
I
He's
mean,
probably still not going to lose.
like
Because
I know that saying this stuff on stream is like can be considered pretty rude, but I think nearly everyone can agree that that was pretty much a misplay, because if you have actual guaranteed lethal, you should probably just win the game. Like, okay,
yeah, I
so
agree.
he still won, but
Yeah, he does.
I
Yeah.
don't know. So
But he
yeah.
is. I mean, other than stuff like that, he's been playing a reasonable game. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
I agree. I'm not that just that. I guess we'll have to ask him after the games.
well, I think it was just strictly a misplay. I think he just glossed over the fact that
Yeah, he
lethal
must have
there.
just like forgotten that he did his soldiers, even though he did it 2 turns before. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did go out of his way to get soldiers, which made me think it was odd. Like it's like he just sort of attached them out of habit. By the way, for all Anamaru players, you want to use your single ace as an early game poke because you don't have to commit aces to it, but it can still do a lot of damage. And if you play it in the early game, you can end up having a lot of power behind your moves going into the later game. Whereas if you play it later game, like we saw neigutten do, you're usually in a lot worse of a position because you're not necessarily going to have time to cash in all your soldiers. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's late game. If you're playing aces, it's like, well, you could just like play better cards and just do damage instead. Like late game, it's better to take the guaranteed damage to try to put them in like checkmate situations rather than threatening vague promises of damage that they might just escape from if they kill you.
yeah, very true. So Grave did reveal the 8 for knowing the opponent. I'm not really sure how neigutten's going to really respond to that. I'm going to guess Grave's going for the attack, but he could be going for the throw 8 also. So if I'm neigutten, I would either play a guard crush or I would dodge here. Yeah, he plays the guard crush and nails him.
Very nice, very nice. Solid, solid play. So he's gonna take that 20 damage. Grave still gets to draw a card from it, but I don't know if drawing a card is worth taking 20 damage. So,
And basically just dying. I mean,
well, it's not guaranteed death. It's just like starting the game as if you're Satsuki.
yeah, you have 20 less life. That's really not a position you want to be in.
Grave can easily make up the deficit due to strong dragon punches and T-Boss.
Well,
yeah.
dragon punches are a lot less useful versus Anamaru just because really just attacking in general is pretty bad versus Anamaru. So it's more likely we're going to see...
well, that's late game. I think early game Grave Qs are pretty fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, actually, early. Fair enough to use Qs early to undercut the pokes.
I just want to shout out that I have a rubber dice now. 6-sided die made of rubber. It's
That's jolly. I'm definitely a fan of rubber dice.
Ooh, big guard crush coming out of neigutten.
Yeah.
That is
a
big play. That is actually really setting this matchup right there.
And he pumps with a 9, which is probably
probably suboptimal,
really bad.
Perhaps, depending on how things are going.
9 is like his second most useful card in this matchup after Jokers. So yeah, I think that was pretty clearly unless his hand has like 4 9s and the rest of his stuff is all Jokers, which it can't be because there are 2 Jokers per deck. That was a misplay. So yeah, it was a misplay.
Sorry, what's that?
That was basically 100% a misplay.
Can you repeat that for the people who weren't listening, i.e. me?
He made a play, he 10 attacked and pumped with a 9, and I'm pretty sure it was a misplay 100%.
Oh, okay. I just realized that Onimaru is indecently bearing his shoulder. Oh right, yeah, the pump with the 9. Yeah, that was yeah, depending on what he had in his hand, and what you determined that he had a 6. Yeah, and he's just been mixed up, which is not the best for poor old Onimo. 5, 6, Jack. Certainly a decent combo. Tell you what, I'm excited for the Fantasy Strike game. Hey Sterling, if
How
you
do you
ever
mean?
need an Australian character, I mean, I'm open. Just say it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
No, this is,
Blocking
yeah,
Final
Grapple Grave
Authority,
is...
not as nice. I think neigutten can easily take this game if he focuses and forces through his damage in the classic Onimaru style. But he needs to be a little careful.
He was playing some dynamic, blocky stuff. Putting some pretty valuable cards down into the block zone.
Which is something I actually really tend to avoid, so it's really interesting for me when I see people do it, because I have to wonder why.
Same here. I always, basically, if you don't have decent blocks, you were meant to block that turn. You shouldn't block, just smash stuff. Works great.
There are some turns where I actually have to really make a hard decision of whether I want to risk my good ability getting thrown or blocking. Like, I don't know.
Having it up. Yeah. I know that feeling.
I'm sorry that my accent isn't quite. Sorry, I I just gotta broaden my accent a little bit. Apparently I'm not quite Australian enough, so I've heard some things about my accent not being quite right. So I've determined that I can probably remedy this problem for Mr. Rat XT1.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll
I
just call
mean,
him Ratty Mate, because that's pretty Australian right there.
Ratty mate.
Ratty Mate.
Ratty mate.
You need to work on your
My
Australian accent there, mate. It's not quite as...
yeah, it's very terrible. So Camden is going for the face down here. That's pretty odd. If I'm neigutten, I still follow through though, likely. Oh, no, he's not.
Good call
He's
on the
not
bluff,
involved.
though. Good call.
Yeah, that's definitely a very good play from neigutten.
You know, Deluxe is right. Red XT1 is the best. Shoutouts to Rat. Shoutouts to Deluxe. Shoutouts to my cool stream monsters, who are actually not monsters at all because they're lovely people. Shoutouts to my co-host Redless. Shoutouts to CKR for starting the league. Shoutouts to these two for playing a match.
Yeah, shoutouts to everyone.
Shoutouts to Shadaloo Showdown, because it was awesome. It's not really related to the stream, but you know.
He's pretty grand. You go there, ML.
It's a good time, good time. Oh, what's this? A Facebook notification. I'll look at it later. Hey, I wonder if I do this. Oh, it didn't work. I'm sorry, boys. That didn't work at all. Sorry. Sorry about that. I won't do that again.
So neigutten, he's on a pretty large hand. I would think he's probably going to go for sort of a dodge-ish punch-ish mix-up here. But no, he's going straight for the friggin' throw in the show. Nemesis kind of how it feels to get your good abilities thrown.
I mean, if there's one thing we've learned about Onimaru, it's that... sorry, if there's one thing we've learned about Grave, it's that definitely have your 7 be thrown.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how it has to go. Well, if this were Entellerman's Yomi mod, Grave would now be knocked down, aka screwed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we shouldn't talk about that too much on the stream, but I will just say I'm pretty sure I could prove that Zane is far too good having an extra linker on his ace. That's as fast as, or almost as fast as his 2 attack.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
kind of insane. And he can power up for it. Like, also that.
yeah, that also I'm up. So we've got Nemesis Cannon going for the throw. You really have to do throws versus Onimaru, because if you're maintaining a reasonable-ish dodge range, then you really are in a position to be throwing Onimaru a lot, since he's not going to be playing anything that beats dodge and throw besides his own throws, and believe me, he's not doing that much at all. Oh man. So we learned neiguten's very, very most precious secret, which is his complete lack of ways to beat TPOS here. He doesn't have jokers in general. So if I'm probably going to look towards a 5 attack or something. I'm not sure which is the best for him though. Maybe an ace poke is good. I don't know. And evidently, neigutten, he played the 5 block. That's pretty reasonable, all things considered.
Yeah, I certainly agree.
So yeah, I'd say neiguten's fairly reasonably favored to win this. Onimaru does have a pretty dynamic range for beating TPOS. If he doesn't get unlucky, sometimes they just TPOS your throw though, and then you just want to just die, and it's sad.
I think if Nemesis manages to land the TPOS, he'll probably just win. But I think Nemesis should be able to prevent that at this point.
I think Nemesis is basically 2 combats away from just dying to Onimaru, and neiguten's 2 combats away from dying to Grave and TPOS. And that's... Onimaru has dominant throws, dominant attacks, and is less reliant on dodges, so he wins dodge versus dodge, I think. Plus, if Grave whiffs the TPOS, he's screwed. So I would say, yeah, it's pretty heavily Grave favored. Or Onimaru favor at the moment.
It looks like a huge life difference, but really it's not when it comes down to these 2 characters. Like, I agree with what you said about each character is just 2 combats away. The throw, sorry, not the throw, what am I saying? The Clockwork Soldiers coming out late game again, and he's attached 2 aces. I don't know why you wouldn't just martial law at that point. It just beats like all the same stuff, and it just like nearly kills him. Like let's be honest here, the only thing that martial law doesn't beat is Graves' single ace, which I don't think he's going to be playing at this point in time. Like, he'll either be playing T-Boss or not at all. You know what I mean? Ooh, and this could be it.
Sorry about that, I was in the bathroom. Yeah, I agree, this is pretty decisive as a turn could go. Oh, and he gets jokered.
He managed to draw it. Okay, that probably seals the deal for neigutten.
Yep. And that strong Clockwork Soldier is attached, though. I mean,
yeah, well, I was just saying, I think it would have been far better to just use as a martial law, because at this point, what's Grave really like martial law beats everything the Clockwork Soldiers beats except for single ace, and really is Grave going to be playing single ace at this point in time? Like it was either TPOS or nothing at all. Like it just wasn't going to happen. Like
I mean,
I'm not sure.
when I was first learning Mario, I was definitely in a position to do things like late Clockwork Soldiers, but it really isn't a good move. You really want to be poking with ace early to get an advantage versus Grave.
So the score is
2-1. So we might see Mrs. Camden counterpicking. And he goes to Vendetta. I've actually played this very matchup against Nemesis Camden's Vendetta. We agree that it's a pretty even matchup. So I find it as an odd counterpick. What do you think?
Well, Vendetta versus anyone is always going to be a strange match, depending on how many dodges and acrobatics Vendetta draws. But for this one, personally, I think that Onimo kind of has the advantage because he can probably often force Vendetta to use his acrobatics, like without Vendetta really gaining much from it.
Yeah, because of his strong dodges. I agree.
Yeah, and also guard crush. Like if Vendetta accidentally gets guard crushed, that's just like devastating for him, and he really wants to aggro that. I mean, I know that's still early game stuff, but like it makes Vendetta want to aggro really badly. And also when he's hitting on a that's not good for Nemesis at all. It's quite bad in fact.
No, it's not.
No, sorry, because it's a. No, sorry, I completely forgot. It's a knockdown. That's actually incredibly good. I totally forgot that gets beaten by knockdown.
Just doesn't give a damn about anything ever.
You're right. So would you say that Claw Trip is quite a strong combat option for Vendetta?
Well, I mean, probably not, like, on knockdown maybe, but generally not as much as you'd think. I mean, if you remember when we played versus the Leaf in this very matchup, really we didn't see much in the way of claw trips except for like first turn when a claw was tripped, and then just like no more claw trips. And the Leaf did pretty well. So I mean, it's not super critical for the game.
Yeah, I do remember that matchup, and we nearly won, except for that last turn surgical strike, if I do remember correctly, from 1 health. 1 health, or was it 2 health?
Misplayed pretty critically on that turn, I'm sorry.
I mean, we misplayed together. But that's not the relevant thing at this point in time. But yeah, I certainly remember that very well, and you're right. There weren't a lot of claw trips coming out. Using the claw trip here as the ender to get the knockdown, maybe he has a king.
Well, it seems odd to me that he goes 6 into trips and claws, etc. That seems like a pretty bizarre play, all things considered.
Dodging, I don't think is the right play there. If he wanted to beat out an attack, I would just use the king attack. Like, that's assuming he has a king, which if he's dodging...
Well, I mean, I would assume Nigutten's not really willing to attack into Vendetta when Vendetta's got him knocked down, unless Vendetta's willing to prove that he has, like a king, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of. And I think that's why Nemesis should have just played the king.
Assuming he has a king in hand, I'd say that him king throwing was more solid than what he did on both of the turns that Nigutten blocked. That's not necessarily true, because Nigutten could have had queen at that point. But, I mean, the first time, Nigutten may have forgotten that queen throw existed, or king throw existed, since he's so caught up in trying to win the block wars, I guess, trying to block correctly. He probably wouldn't expect the king coming out. And then later on, the two later blocks were sort of indicative that neigutten really didn't have a way to get up besides just blocking stuff. Which is, Onamaru, it's really tempting to block a lot because Onamaru is evidently scary to throw, quote unquote. And I don't really see that, but whatever. The other thing is, like, most of Onamaru's range, if it's complemented by block, you just auto win things. Because people are really not going to throw you much, and there's...
Oof, the confidence in that throw.
Well, I mean, throw speed doesn't matter as much at this point. But yeah, I agree that was a pretty cocky read. Especially for someone who's not willing to play it on knockdown. That was a really kind of confident move. So we might see some dodges coming up from Nemesis Cannon, because dodges are really good in this specific spot, just because he has the strong dodge follow-up in the king. But neigutten, I mean, he might be tempted to block for that reason, or just display out an option, as it were. We'll have to see how he goes about dealing with this.
Absolutely, it'll be very interesting now that he knows for certain that Nemesis has the king. I think the best play for Nemesis right here is probably just king attack.
Yeah, I mean, that might... I guess that's reasonably reasonable. But I mean, what he did... Yeah, you're correct that king attack would have been a great option there.
He did hit.
I think the people on the leaf, they would have blocked there to try and detach our soldiers. Oh, I'm still having flashbacks to that traumatic matchup. And it looks like he did that, and that's why he played that, what he did. So he bluffs with the 7. That's a bit of an odd play. 7's really valuable for Onamaru, just because Onamaru late game, his guard crushes start being completely terrible because they lose to
dodges.
which dodges.
Vendetta has quite a few of. Yeah, I would probably just play Arg in this matchup. I mean, I know that I can win bad matchups pretty well, considering I took like 2 or 3 games off a guy with Troc versus Vendetta, versus Onamaru, which is supposed to be a terrible matchup. But I did then swap to Arg because it's so easy. This is probably, yeah, this is going to burn an acrobatics. So 1 final authority for 1 acrobatics. But it does mean that Onimaru gets up and doesn't lose his aces. So at this point, I think that leaves Onimaru advantage for this combat.
Yeah, I would agree, too. Ideally, I mean... Yeah.
I would probably play a face card if I were Onimaru, if I had final authority.
I would probably play a dodge, generally, or a block,
so
depending on which we're high.
You would have been right. I would have got hit.
Well, face card was legitimate too. I mean, Handon does want to do different moves that exist. So if Candon does end up beating neigutten in this matchup, do you think we can expect to see neigutten counterpicking?
I don't know. I think he feels pretty confident in Onimaru, but perhaps this is shaking him a little.
Yeah, I would agree. Onimaru seems like a fairly, reasonable person to play.
Using Jack as a combat option there is probably pretty smart, considering it beats out the 5, which is always a kind of dangerous one when you're trying to poke as Vendetta. Also, you always seem to have way too many Jacks when you play Vendetta.
Yeah, I would agree. You always like to pump these away. And then you're like, well, they could be useful for pushing through damage, and then nothing happens and you're just sad with them. Or I'd begin pumping.
That probably only happens to bad Vendetta players like us, but...
And not pumping with them is fine with me too.
So he's gone ahead and attached another Clockwork Soldier, so he has 2 of those now. While I appreciate the fact that he's building up so that if he makes a comeback, it'll be easier, I don't know if he should just focus on just putting some damage in. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's right to set it up. And he's trying to attach more aces, so he obviously just drew that one because otherwise he would have reattached it. So I guess he was going in for a surprise play, but where's the vendetta? I'm not sure how good of a play that is. An 8th throw, so I guess he was trying to beat a dodge into king.
Yeah.
But when Vendetta only has 3 cards, he really isn't going to be doing that much dodging.
Well, this yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's reasonably reasonable to be dodging there actually as Vendetta, because you want lethal more than you want the disattach aces, and it's like 3 cards dodge follow up that's lethal. So if he has a jack, I mean, potentially just lethaling there is just working great.
That's true. But I think building the hand is the correct option. You know, in case they have a joker.
I guess so. I mean, okay, yeah, he finally deattaches stuff. Block spam works really well versus Onamaru in general. Really, that's not something Onamaru wants to see is block spam. So you can really just spam block versus Onamaru and just win a lot of the time, especially if you have scary guard crush punish.
That's kind of true. Would you say that Vendetta has a scary guard crush punish?
Yeah, he has all his carry and reach normals, so they're pretty low variance, guard crushy, punishy, damagey things.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so
A kidney shot. That's
pretty fair. I mean, you can really did let Cannon get up to a large hand, which is pretty reasonable. I mean, one of the things that you really don't like about Onamaru is that he's not as good at suppressing as you'd want him to be, just because he has things that just don't work as suppressing options. Since he has to dodge to prevent you from getting normal draw, since he doesn't have defense mastery. So really, he's in a lot less position to suppress than like a grappler would be. And he also has less in the way of throws, quote unquote. And his actual real throws are not artificial at all.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the final match. For those of you wondering.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry I'm so quiet.
It's
I'm quite tired. It's 6 AM. And I've been up for a long time, and I've been to Melbourne. Been quite tired, but it's always a good chance to do some commentary and some streaming for my buddies.
I'm pretty much sick at the moment, so I'm pretty tired also.
It's alright, we can be tired stream buddies together.
Yeah, okay, that's reasonable. So, but just as I was saying, Nessus Cannon is pulling out some pretty confident carry and reach normals that are really going to trouble Onamaru's guard crush attempts.
Yeah, definitely. Neigutten is taking some time to... Oh, there we go. So, Vendetta's trying to dodge quite a bit in the early game. I don't know if that's correct play. I suppose neigutten has been playing a reasonably attack-heavy early game. But at the same time, I feel like he can just as easily not, and like, there's not too much Nemesis can do about it. Like, if neigutten just starts blocking, like, Nemesis has to respond to that. Like, he can't. He's gonna have to take the initiative, and I think that would probably be really good for neigutten to force Nemesis to do that. Because
Well, I mean,
if Vendetta has to throw, that's probably not his best option. Like, it's one of his weaker options. I don't think it's his weakest, but maybe it is. So, like, it's pretty... What I'm saying is, like, it's... If Onimaru just sits around and blocks, then, sure, Vendetta gets to poke all day with his normals and build his hand through his passive, which is fine. But then he has to convert that hand into damage, and if he has to do that off throws, then his best conversion is off the kidney shot. And Onimaru can just go, okay, so now you've tried to attack me, and you've tried to attack me, and you've tried to attack me. I am just gonna, suddenly, I'm just gonna throw out a high normal. And I'm just gonna hit a throw. And if he can do that, then I think that'll really work out in his favor. However,
well, he does have to win, like, if Nemesis is not throwing a high percentage of the time, it's kind of a sort of thread the needle thing for neigutten.
Yeah, and if neigutten doesn't throw out the high normal like that, then he will get thrown into ace-ace, which is some okay damage.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a trap for Onimaru in a lot of positions, because you realize that your attack punish is outstanding, but you also realize that your opponent can dodge every day and, like, just mix random other stuff in and beat you most of the time. And if you throw, then you can't sustain your heavy throw range for long, because if you throw too much, then all of a sudden you are out of cards to put your throws with and you're screwed. It looks like neigutten's doing what you said, sort of mixing it up, tossing out high normals.
I definitely think the best range for Onimaru at this point is simply blocks and high normals. Just try to match them up, and occasionally dodges. I don't think he needs to throw really at this point, because if he throws and gets hit, it's like he's just gonna get hit. Like, because Nemesis can convert quite a bit of damage off that. I mean, same as if one of his high normals gets hit, for sure. But also, neigutten doesn't have infinite 7 throws. And he doesn't always want to use his 8 throws. So he's caught the kidney shot, which is exactly what I said he should be trying to do. And he's going to take some big damage off that combat, which also states to me that Nemesis doesn't have acrobatics as it stands, which is heavily in Onimaru's favor.
Yeah, really, yeah, neigutten is in a very good position, and if he's throwing with the 4, that means he's willing to blow a dodge up to throw, so he's getting pretty desperate. Neigutten can probably play a pretty conservative range and have a reasonable chance to win here.
Also, the fact that that means that he's trying to get the damage, because the 4 throw is to get the big damage off your throws. And so neigutten has just gone ahead and just been like, I'm gonna throw you for your effort, because having blown a dodge, you're gonna be blocking to get dodges back, and he's going to do some very large damage.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a pretty pretty damaging combat we just saw. So I mean, and now we know neigutten has unjokerable dodges, gets clockwork. He has basically everything he could want to try and, yeah, nails him with the 7 throw. Probably what I would have done there also. His throws are dominant and attacks are a low percent play for Vendetta. So that was a pretty reasonable victory by neigutten.
I agree. I think he should be very happy with that win. He very adequately defeated Vendetta in that second match. He adapted quite well, I think.
I agree. And that was a pretty dynamic game.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed.
Okay, well, good night, Bomber.
So I'm gonna end this stream here. Thank you for watching, stream people. I'll see you again, I'm sure. Good night. I'm very tired. Bye for now.